Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste, hello everyone. We are at lecture 9 today in this course on interior design, and today we will be talking about drawings and representation techniques, especially focusing on interior architecture or interior design. So when we talk about interior architecture projects, the drawings are really elaborate, and I keep saying that God is in the details. So all these drawings that we produce, they are very comprehensive, they have a lot of information. So in this lecture, I'm going to show you some representation and some discussion on these drawings. So what are some of the types of interior architecture drawings, some standards and simples, some of the types of plans, and then there is an example of a project and there are some references. So when we talk about types of interior architecture drawings, we could, understand these drawings in terms of process. So there are process drawings, and process drawings would, essentially mean preliminary images or sketches and schematics. They don't have to be like hardcore construction drawings or, the working drawings. Then we have construction documents or, working drawings or drafted drawings. So it has, the drawings which give proper information regarding how they will be drafted. So there are like working drawings and there are technical drawings like plans, elevations, sections, also zoom in details. Now the drafted drawings, they could be technical sketches. So rather than preliminary sketches, technical sketches would be on scale. They would have some kind of a technical detail. And other than technical sketches, there is like mechanical drafting when we talk about drafted drawings. There is also computer aided drafting, which is like your CAD drawings. And then of course there are presentation drawings. So, even to present like a complete portfolio, these drawings come handy. So they could have illustrated sketches, they could have 3D views, renders, also details like perspectives, isometrics and so on. So there is, this mix and match of these kinds of drawings that you could use, and it could enhance the portfolio of your project and you could have better interactions with your clientele. So this is an example of a technical sketch. It gives an idea, about the scale of the design and it gives the overall ideation. And this is done on scale to, represent how a certain space would look like sort of on a final scale. Then there is also an example of CAD drawing that you see over here. So the Autodesk AutoCAD is used for drafting these drawings, and of course they are not like freehand sketches, but they are like proper line drawings with all the hatching and all the symbols, how the furniture is placed, what is the layout like, how does the wall look like, where are the openings, what are the details, where is the flooring and what kind of flooring it is. And also this kind of a numbering and direction suggesting like where the subject is standing and which side they are looking at, and then also giving other details relevant to this. So elevation on this side or this side. So there will be like an entire set of drawings and it would be required on site for like a proper execution of the project. And we designers use a lot of tracing papers also. So like this is a tracing paper and this is like the initial conceptualization or ideation, even like sort of close to final drawing but in a very crude format. And if you use a graph paper underneath, it may also give you the idea of scale, or it could be without scale also in the beginning, which could be like your very cursory idea. So these tracing papers help in interior architecture, ideation and drawings. Then we also have vellum paper. Here actually this is a bit crisp and solid compared to the tracing paper, and it does not absorb the ink readily, and these details and drawings, they could stay for a longer period. So this is quite often used. Then the graph paper that I was just talking about, there is a proper grid mentioned over here, and like one square could represent like one scale, and corresponding to that it becomes easy to make your drawings. And here, since we already have grid lines or construction lines, they are like almost straight and linear while we work. Of course, not like drafted drawings which are done on the AutoCAD or other softwares, but this is quite on scale and very finessed in that sense. Then, when we talk about these drawings, any kind of drawing that we just saw, the different kinds of drawings, and especially when we talk about the software, there are line weights which we could assign to different lines, and this could also happen manually when we do the sketching. Whether we are using a light intensity pencil or a dark intensity pencil, whether it's like 2H, 4H, 2B, 4B, 6B. So H is the lighter one and towards B is the darker one. And then with the combination of light and dark, we could create this kind of a variation. So for example, over here, like these are dark lines, and here if we see this is like light, its furniture is light. So the main highlights are your building elements. So you will give your wall thicknesses and your width, and the line weights are assigned like that. So there are layers in the software, and these line weights could be assigned there. And of course there are these other details which are sort of marked lighter. So then there is sort of a layer, and it helps read these drawings. And also lettering matters a lot when we produce interior architecture drawings, again be it manual or software. And we must also have some sort of layering and line weights for that also. So there is a system in place, and it's based on hierarchy of information. So main titles under the drawings, there is a certain scale and dimension that is followed. Subtitles and sub-names have other dimension. We have notes. We also have like sheet numbering and title block over here. So main heading, other subheadings, the title, legend, and then within this drawing, we have other set of information. So we have text and dimensioning over here also. So as per the hierarchy of information, there are, of course, the play of dimensions along with line weights in the case of lettering also. Then there are drafting standards and symbols. So, there could be different kinds of lines, and they could signify different kind of information when we read the drawings. So it could be a solid line, dashed one, the line which shows movement. There is a leader line, break line, there is also a center line, then a line denoting section where the section is being cut, and then of course the dimension line, which is very important. So there is this solid line that you see over here, and it indicates visible objects which are seen in plan elevation or 3D views. And then there are dashed lines which usually show the hidden objects, or like hidden parts of an object or objects below or behind another object. And these are quite useful for the interior architecture portfolio. They also indicate shelving or cabinets, above a counter. So whatever is not clearly visible at the eye level and it's above or below, we could use different kinds of dash lines to showcase that kind of information. Then there are also like movement lines. If you see over here, dash and two dots, and they imply direction or they show movement. And also they could indicate a bi-swing door, where is the movement of the door or the opening. That could also be shown through these dashed lines, or a phantom line as it is called sometime, also indicating sometime the views. And sometimes indicates also drawers, cabinet door openings, opening direction like I was telling you, and along the hinge and that hinge point, where is the opening, whether it is opening inside or outside. Those kinds of indications can be given by these kinds of lines. Then there is a leader line that we see over here with a sort of an arrow, and these lines are used to connect notes or references to objects or lines in a drawing. And they start with a solid line, and of course they end with an arrow. They could be straight or at an angle. Then there are break lines, because sometimes we are not able to contain or fit drawing within a single piece of paper or on a single canvas. It may be quite elaborate, and we may be using these break points, and then later we can connect based on where the positioning of these break lines or break points are. We can then just connect them and have the entire piece of information woven together. Then there is this center line, which is like a long dash and a small dash, and they indicate the center of a plan, object, circle, arc, or any symmetrical object. Section line, over here we see this section line along with this arrow, so the direction in which we are looking. And the section line is used to show a cutaway view of a floor plan. And the direction of the arrows, it shows the direction of the section view. So this is the notation for the section line. And we have dimension lines which show the measurement of an object, or the indicate the length, width, diameter, etc. And an important thing that you see over here for interior architecture projects and interior architecture drawings, it is preferred to use feet inches. Although we can write always in the bracket in the metric system also, so it can be an additional information. So we could write both, because a lot of people still follow metric. But the standard protocol and the best practice as per interior architecture profession is to use feet inches. And the people who execute on ground, the masons and the skilled people, they are well versed with feet inches, and it is sort of used quite often on ground, on site. Then material symbols are also very handy, and they are very, very crucial. How we denote different materials and how we show them through representational drawings and then translating them on site. So whenever we are sort of cutting a section, we are going to see some material notation through drawings. For example, a brick could be shown like this. Then there is this concrete with dots and small triangles. There is a symbol for earth. Brick could also be shown like this. Then there is a ceramic tile, glass, and then this one showing here the wood. And for plastering, for stone, for different ways of showing timber, etc. So there's this entire set of symbols that always helps us in representing and communicating our ideas and drawings. We also have interior architecture graphic symbols, how we show a wall, or how we show a cased opening, an interior door, again with the dotted lines, the direction. And then there is this exterior door over here. You can see the difference, this versus this. There could be a bifold door, there could be a sliding door, or there could be a pocket door where this thing goes inside this and fits over here. So we have all these symbols, and it's sort of very precise and concise way of showcasing certain building elements, certain material typologies, certain movement patterns, certain direction connotations. So all of this could be done using these graphic symbols. And for something double hung, like a casement opening or a sliding door again, there is this awning, like you must have seen this sort of a canvas projected outside in restaurants, etc., and just above the window openings. So even we can sort of create a symbol for that awning. Then we have more interior architecture graphic symbols. Like here for the sliding door, this is for the panel door. So we have these panels over here. So, it could be a flush door, panel door, and so on, and we could just represent that graphically. And then, there are different kinds of windows, and we see again a single casement window, of course, with this dotted line that gives the idea of opening and direction. The double casement one, a fixed window, which, the double hung, we see like two portions of that, the awning that I just explained, and so on. So all these graphic symbols can be used very effectively. Then there are different kinds of drawings, especially plans, because these drawings are very important, because Even though we have 3D renders and 3D views, and we can use a lot of softwares to explain how a space looks like or how it can be perceived for the benefit of our clientele and also for better, presentation of our portfolios. But it's very important to know how to make proper line drawings, and within that, a plan is a very important drawing. And for interior architecture projects, we would require plans of varied typology to communicate our drawings and details and ideas. So there's a site plan, and of course there are residential drawings and commercial drawings. There may be slight variation in terms of what kind of scale and what kind of representation we are using. But in terms of typology, starting with the site plan, which is very, very crucial. Then there is a foundation plan, of course, and you have floor plans, which are very important for interior architecture project portfolios. There are a lot of elevations, different walls, different elevations, lots of sections, and your construction details and working drawings, interior details like surface finishes, tiling, false ceiling details, etc. And then, of course, services. So you have your lighting, plumbing, electrical, you have your air conditioning, heating, ventilation drawings, etc. And then we could use these kinds of scales to represent them. It could be a customized scale also, but this is sort of baseline set pattern. There is a very simple checklist, and it's important, and especially for floor plans and otherwise also for different kinds of plans and drawings. So there is a professional way of presenting these drawings, and it's good to have a title block. It's good to have a certain delineation and definition within our canvas or sheet, and the title and scale, and what are the drawing number, and what is the site orientation, where is the north on the site, and which is represented through an arrow. So it's if I just put an arrow like this and then write a north at the bottom of the sheet or upper left corner of the sheet, it will help understand the site orientation. Then the exterior walls and interior walls, outline of porches, patios, and whether we have given this window schedule or not, door schedule or not, proper symbol is marked or not, whether we have sort of highlighted through symbols and the symbols that we just saw a while ago, whether it's sliding or casement, or door is swinging or folding or pocket or sliding, all those kinds. And of course then different rooms and different spaces within that project or within like the drawings that we have produced, what are those different spaces that we have demarcated, the positioning of the staircases, and then giving the directional arrows which show the up and down, which side the staircase is leading us to. If there are chimneys and fireplaces, and then of course also considering the universal accessibility, and then showing wheelchair access circle. So there is this certain radius that you need for turning your wheelchair, so that has to be shown with dashed lines. So these are all very, very important aspects, and our drawings should be the most effective to communicate even the smallest possible detail because they are important. We could also show handrails, grab bars. It is also possible to show plaster lines and then zoom in and then show on a larger scale even details of the layering within plasters. So all of those possibilities are there. Then of course within the interior architecture domain, fixtures and appliances also have a big role to play. We have a lot of storage to show. So cabinets and shelving, and also the furniture layout, where the equipment is placed, even that layout. Where is your refrigerator going to come? Where are you going to put your sinks? And where your storage units are going to come? Whether they are, the storage is above your eye level or they are just below your waist. So even those kinds of positioning needs to be shown. Also appliances like dryers and, water tanks, etc. So we could use these line drawings so effectively to showcase and highlight all these details that go into making interior spaces very, very functional, aesthetic and creative. And yeah, if there is any built-in interior feature, any kind of detail or customized sort of design is introduced within the project, all of those could be showcased through plans and drawings. And yes, of course, the dimensioning and the notations, they are very, very important and they have to be put on all of these drawings. And then the title and the scale, of course. So like this is an example of a floor plan over here that we see. And like this is a study room, here this is a kitchen. And within the kitchen, we see all these details. So there is a dotted line, there is a cabinet above the eye level. And these are all the arrows and numbering for the elevations, all 4 elevations, and where the equipment is placed and where the refrigerator is placed, all of that. And this is the living room. And, again, marking all the details, making the section lines. Then here we see the staircase and we give this direction up, like we were discussing, up and down. We have to show directions through the arrows. And here we see again a material symbol. So what are these walls made of, etc. So all those details are given over here. There is a laundry room, and then there is some kind of a flooring over here. So the drawing could communicate every possible detail. So it's all in the notation, it's all in the drawings. And line drawings are very important for execution on the site. Only views will not help, of course. We have to talk about the material, specification, finish, dimension, scale, joinery, everything. So if we talk about dimensions, within that also there is sort of a hierarchical placement. There is an overall dimensioning, then wall dimensioning, and then the dimensioning of the opening. So if we see over here, there is an overall dimensioning, we have the dimensioning of the opening, and then the wall dimensioning. So we can produce this hierarchy of information. Over here, if we see, there is this dimension again in feet inches. And we also see these tick marks over here. They clearly delineate or demarcate, from where to where this dimensioning is done. And it's quite important because until and unless we have the idea of scale and dimension, it's hard to relate these drawings on site. Then from here, if we see, there is this dimension marked from this to this. This is the dimension line, and this is the dimension line extension that we see over here. So these are methods to represent our drawings. And we have to keep a little offset from the origin so that, it's comprehensible and readable to the eye. It becomes easy to read it at a glance. This is another floor plan or drawing, and it helps us understand the dimensioning of a curve. So, if we have like anything curved or any detail which is, like an arc or a circle, or, it's like a segment or a sector, we can just give the radius of this over here and mark the dimension along with the other dimensions that we see over here in feet inches. So it's quite possible to talk about the curves or the circles and define them in terms of radius or other ways of quantifying them. Then the interior elevation drawings are very crucial because, giving all the elevations of like all 4 sides, the subject is standing here, and then trying to show to the client how a certain wall or how a certain elevation looks like. Because as designers, we may be able to comprehend things in terms of plans or sections. But our clientele who may or may not be from this background, it could be very useful, for us to show them elevations and 3D views. So an interior elevation is a very important part of the interior architecture drawing portfolio. It's a vertically projected surface inside a building, and it gives us very crucial information such as the height of the interior elements, what are the material palettes that we have incorporated on these vertical surfaces, and if there is any color palette which is very specific, any kind of designs or any kind of customization or highlighting we have done on these vertical surfaces. So it gives the overall idea of the space that is being conceptualized and designed. Now, it is also possible to have, elevations for the surfaces or planes or walls which may not be perpendicular, to to the wall, or which may not be completely straight or maybe at an angle. So for that we can have separate elevation drawings, and the arrows and numbering always help. So this side elevation, this side, and since here we are talking about this angle, we could make other set of drawings for these surfaces. So looking at this plane, this one, and then this wall. So this entire set will help us conceptualize 360-degree of this space, which the user is eventually going to inhabit and experience. Interior elevation drawings, yeah, so like I said, they are very important, and we could keep adding a lot of details. We could keep adding a lot of numbers and, make elevation drawings from different angles, positioning the subject at different points. And the interior elevations could show us doors, windows, other openings, even profiles of objects, connections, between the floor and ceiling and so on. The information about the material palette, and of course the dimensioning and notation to highlight the information. Like this is one particular elevation, and if you look at this drawing, this is what I mean when I say God is in the details, and interior architecture drawings are quite elaborate. So if you look over here, for example, this portion, there is a tile pattern over here which is known as the herringbone tile pattern. In the lecture on tiles, this is discussed. Also, what kind of lighting is it? Is it LED or incandescent or fluorescent? All of those kinds of information. If there is any kind of a make, whether it's particular make or a proprietary item or whatever specification it is, that even can be put over here. For example, for a tile, whether it's Kajaria or another brand or whatever, even those set of information could be put if the discussion and approval is done by all the stakeholders. Then over here, adjustable shelves. And then, of course, we have the dimensioning, which is highlighted in another color over here. And then we have upper cabinets painted. This one over here, lower section of, available for keeping plates. This kind of marking for oven, etc. All the equipment that we were talking about, the kitchen fixtures and equipment. Then this countertop over here, what kind of countertop it is, whether it's a flat edge or is there a nosing like a bulbous round edge over there. What is it made out of, granite or any other kind of material. All those information must be incorporated in all of these interior architecture drawings. Where the dishwasher is situated, what is the dimension, how much is this width, where is the microwave put, and other kinds of details. I mean, less is, in this case, less is not more. We need elaborate drawings for the interior architecture portfolio. This is another interior elevation drawing. It does represent material also. So if it is a stone or concrete, if there is any mechanical box or any service that needs to be incorporated, if there is some equipment, here it is refrigerator, if there is an opening like a door or window, and then of course dimensions. They are done hierarchically like we were discussing. So this is the main outer dimension, then this one, and then this one, so that there is no clutter and these dimension lines do not crisscross or overlap. We maintain this sort of an hierarchy and keep it very clean. And here we also have, a render. So it is also an elevation, but it is explained, very graphically through renders and human symbols and color coordination. This one is another one, and here also we have a lot of information. So this is the hall, what is the major dimensioning like, the door opening, then there are lighting fixtures installed and they are mentioned over there. Then there is a etched glass detail over here. If you can see this detail, there is a drop from the ceiling and there is a design element over there. It could be a chandelier, a false ceiling, or any other element that you may have designed. So what are those details, and what is the level of drop from this ceiling. So we usually take reference to the finished floor level and finished ceiling level, and from there, we mark the different levels in the interior architecture drawings. Mentioning the plaster, etc., and the main door or the entrance, all of that, and then if there is a material palette that you would like to signify, so a laminate base, etc., something like a polished chrome circle. So we can mark all of these, and even for further detailing, we can always produce another set of drawing, and we can put a star or a number here, and then it could be referred to in the portfolio, right? Like in the entire set. This one again, we have the exterior elevation, and then how we do the dimensioning. So we take this reference of the roof ridge over here, and then this is the grade. So you have your ground floor, and then from here, from the earth to the roof ridge, all these dimensioning is done so neatly. First floor, second floor, and so on. And then again, the amount of detailing that I have been talking about. So cedar board. So cedar is a kind of timber. Any kind of material palette, whether it's glass or any kind of insulation, any kind of timber detailing, any kind of laminate. Then this dimensioning for your opening, this side and this side, x and y coordinates, all the other internal dimensioning. So it's very neat and clean, quite readable, understandable. And then from here, this grade, which is like the bottom of the footing to the roof of the ridge, we can do this entire set of dimensioning. Then we have section drawings. So a section drawing is basically a vertical cut through a space or object. So if you see over here, this is like a plane and we are just cutting it through and through. And then what are the materials that we can see over here, what are the details, that is what a section depicts. So we can have section drawings which are also very technical and very, very important. It will show us the wall thicknesses, the kind of material that is there in this wall, and what are the different kinds of details, whether it's the material Korean or timber or metal, whether it's half inches thick or 1 inches thick, whether it's an MDF board, whether it's 8 mm, 10 mm, epoxy bond or any other kind of adhesive. Here we see this molding, so whether it's oak or cherry or mahogany, what kind of wood it is. Also these kinds of details again, which plywood, what make, what kind of inches, because there are also standard sizes available in the market. There could be customized details also, but yeah, there are standard sizes available, and then we try to put those dimensions in drawings over here if we are procuring those standard typologies. Whether there is a lacquer finish or it's a varnish done over there. So all these details a section helps us understand. So the material, the cross section, the thickness, the make, the different kind of specifications within a material family. So all of that we will get to understand through section drawings. So they are very, very crucial. This is like a building section, and here again we see all the details from the footing to the the topmost slab, where which space is, and again treated wood, or whether there is a paint or gypsum board over here, whether there is timber here or not, what is the thickness like, what is the material over here, so like red pine, and whether it takes an oil stain or not, if there is a furring strip or any insulation material or not. So those kinds of details a section helps us understand, and it's very, very crucial for executing the projects on site. And it may appear a bit complex or overwhelming, but once we understand the fundamentals, it's not so difficult to create these kinds of drawings. And of course we have software support in any case, but the fundamental understanding is important for execution on site, even though we have software support. Then we have more drawings like for ceiling. So if there is a ceiling like this, and if I were to draw a section again, what will be the details like? So there is a steel plate over here, There is an air chamber which we have to sort of incorporate, and what kind of nuts and bolts and screws or metal details or all of those things. If there is an AC, if there is a service that has to be incorporated, how much is the drop of the false ceiling, whether there is a false ceiling or not. So corresponding to this drawing, this is the section, and we give all these details over here. Then schedules are also very important for interior architecture projects. So there is door schedule, which is very crucial. So again, we mark some points, how many numbers, what are the sizes, and whether it's a flush door or a panel door, whether it is made out of birch wood or pine or some kind of a fabric or glass, whether there is a natural finish or it is polished. The glass is tempered glass or tinted glass or colored glass or a clear glass, whether it has a film on it or not. So we give all those kinds of details through these kinds of schedules and inventories. So this is the markup which we saw in the table, on the slide before, and then the quantity of these or number of these, and then the other details. So again, the mark, the number, and all the details. And these are the important details that we have to give in a schedule. This is another example. So, the numbering and marking, and then type of the door, quantity of the door, and then the door opening, what is the size, what is the type, which material, what is the finish, then what material, what is the frame like. So we can break the door also, in terms of opening, frame, jamb, hardware, other details, and we can put some remarks also. So like this is for the hardware. So these kinds of schedules are very, very handy for site. We also have like window schedules again, right? So different kinds of sizes, and then different kind of opening, what material, and whether there's a fixed window or what kind of glazing is there, all of that, what kind of finish is there. And here also, like if we see again different kinds of windows or openings, and then accordingly this schedule is made. So like one project could have a variety of these openings or different typologies of windows or doors, and they will all get reflected in this schedule. We also have an interior finish schedule, which is very good piece of information for site execution. So what room is it, foyer or living room or dining room, etc. What is the floor made of? So for foyer it is ceramic, or for the family room it is natural cork, or it is hardwood. Then what is the base like, what are the finishes on the walls. So we have wallpaper here in the living room, so those kinds of details. Then what is the ceiling like, gypsum board or any other material, ceiling height, and it will depend on services and whether you are going for a false ceiling or not. And also sometimes there may be remarks, like specific details, coffers in the ceiling, POP work in the ceiling, etc. So POP, plaster of Paris, we will keep using some terms in one or the other lecture, and then you'll be able to connect the dots. We do have this discussion on the lecture on finishes. Here again, right, again the room finish schedule, and office 1, office 2, office 3, carpet, whether there is a carpet or not, whether there is a vinyl tile or ceramic tile, ceiling height again, and then the remarks. So here also we can break that room into building elements like floor, base, walls, ceiling, and then accordingly give different sets of finishes for each room. We also have something very important which is called FF plus E schedule, so furnishing, furniture and equipment. So here if you see, if you have to install furniture somewhere on the site, this is the kind of elaborate drawing with the entire layout, with all the sort of symbols, and in space how these will be put along with the circulation spaces between these, what material it is. So we have this entire schedule over here. What kind of table, how many number, what is the make, what is the description, what is the finish, and where it is installed. So this kind of notation and representation on the drawing along with this kind of a furniture schedule, this comes very, very handy on site. And we can mark the equipment and other details also. So this is one example of FF plus E schedule. So, what is the, I was telling that sometimes we also talk about the make or the manufacturer or the brand. So, Herman Miller chair or Falcon product, or is it Knoll? So, chair, and this one is the custom wood tabletop. And then again, finishes and some remarks. So, this is very crucial for interior architecture projects. This is a small example of a Montessori school. This is done by a friend and a student, Kishika. She's based in Kolkata. She's done some work with us on a project. And this is the location, this is the area, this is the given plot. And she did this exercise very, very meticulously, and we are very happy and thankful for her to contribute this and let us share this with all of you. So I really like this proximity and criteria matrix that she, developed. And, what are these spaces adjacent or functions adjacent to each other, nearby and not related. So if we are able to map these, we will be able to have an informed design decision wherever, we use a design decision, it will be very informed and functional and effective. So entrance, also in terms of privacy, services, daylight or ventilation, quantity, area, and then is it adjacent to principal's room, or is it having any proximity to principal's room, or is it not related at all to teacher's room? So that kind of matrix has been designed, and accordingly she then designed spaces. So this matrix is very useful and it's a good tool for interior architecture projects. And then of course the bubble diagram. But if you do it with an idea of scale and the actual area, then it will help. If it is done very randomly, then it may not be a very good exercise. So again, trying to connect the dots and seeing how the user navigates from one space to another, this always helps. Of course, the zoning, how the zoning is done within a classroom also, and then otherwise on a larger scale. And then of course, entire site plan, how you develop it, and then the detailed drawing within a space. So these are some examples from a portfolio. But I would insist again that proximity, matrix and mapping is very useful for projects, interior architecture or otherwise. So I always like to share some interesting quotes, and here it's about precision because we are talking about interior architecture and these drawings, and they have to be like really precise. So be precise. A lack of precision is dangerous when the margin of error is small. So very profound. And next we will discuss the summary for the entire week. These are some of the references, mostly the book that I have referred to and mentioned on the slides along with some websites. Thank you. I'll see you next time.